Today we're going to kind of be going through our presentation that we work with in collaboration with TELUS, called the TELUS WISE program. And what this is kind of like a give back campaign that we have to give people some information on internet safety, smartphone education, and also cyberbullying as well. So we're going to be covering a couple different topics tonight. This is kind of like a high level of everything that we do in the presentation, but we do all different sorts of presentations throughout. So we've partnered with quite a few organizations. Locally in Windsor, we've done a lot of collaboration with Windsor Police Services as well as OPP. Mostly the presentations that we've done so far have been within the schools, grade schools, high schools, and even college. So we're going to go through a couple things today: smartphone safety, some things that you do, some tips and tricks and things like that to keep safe. Cyberbullying, as well as distracted driving as well.
The importance of this slide here is just to show how much we're evolving in a digital society. So these are just stats from 2 years. So it's done by a company called Excelicom, and they do information studies. So this is per minute on the internet. So some of these images you might recognize, obviously Facebook. Do we have Facebook users here? Yeah. How about Snapchat? Because that's the big one that we talk about with the kids. Only one? 2 Snapchat users? Okay. That's the important one that we see the biggest change. So per minute in 2016, Snapchat saw roughly 500,000 snaps is what they're called, sent. So the kids are using it. It's the instant picture. So it's the 10-second video that you can send to your friend and it deletes, right? So 500,000 in 2016. In 2017, it's just under 7 million. So that just shows you how many pictures your kids are sending to each other.
That's in a minute.
Per minute, right?
Per minute of every day.
So there's other stats as well. I mean, we have Instagram users here too. Any Instagram users? Yeah. So those numbers aren't super drastic, but there's an increase across the board. So that's just going to show you that the stuff that we're using online or we're doing online is continuing to grow. And yeah, this is just per minute. The big one though is the Snapchat one. So ask your kids about it if you have kids when you get home. So how connected are we as Canadians? So 95% of us have access at home to the internet. They also add in work and stuff like that too as well. Do most people here have internet at their house? Right, so they say, it's not a stat on here, but 90% of these people also have access to more than one device, they're saying. So think about a cell phone, tablet, laptop, whatever your devices you're carrying. I mean, we've each got 2 devices here. We're probably connected to multiple at any point in time. So we're spending about 71% of us are spending about 3 to 4 hours on the internet at a time. So that's why this is so important to discuss. When we go into the schools, this is very obvious to, to the kids. Of course I spend that much time on the internet, regardless if I'm trying to be limited by my parents. So 76% of Canadians own a smartphone. I think that number's probably grown. These stats are from last year. I mean, a lot of people now even have 2 cell phones. Does anyone actually have 2 cell phones? Yeah. Work and personal. I mean, I technically, I guess, could have 2 cell phones, but.
So being more connected, the idea is the more connected to devices that we are now, the more people that are online, the more threats, right? It's like being out in everyday world, walking the streets, right? There's just more threats involved. A lot of these things you might have already seen before, right? Like when you got your first PC computer, you heard of things like viruses and malware and things like that. A lot of these new, I guess, threats. There's some newer ones. As phishing is one that we're getting a lot of. Spoofing, ransomware. Ransomware is something that someone sends you an email. They have a downloaded copy of your information. So they could have downloaded your entire profile off Facebook over the last 5 years, all your messages, all your photos and things like that. And basically they'll release it to you if you give them money. So that is one threat that's out there too. So that's not something that you should totally ignore in an email. Anything that you're getting in an email that would be phishing, they're just trying to basically scam you. So a lot of this stuff is done over the phone. So yeah, you have a virus on your computer. This is Cogeco calling up. Just need your username and login information. If it's Cogeco, if it's TELUS, if it's your internet service provider, anyone like that, if it's them, they don't need your username and password because they have it. They shouldn't be asking for that. So anything like that should be a direct hang up, or ask them, yeah, what's your rep number, or, you know, what's the number I can call you back? Most of the times they'll hang up, right? Some other things too, farming, which is basically trying to get, just trying to steal your banking information and things like that. Another one that has been around for a while now with laptops, people going to coffee shops and stuff like that, something called shoulder surfing. And this is something that has nothing to do with technology at all. This is just literally someone standing over your shoulder and looking at your information. There's people that go to coffee shops, libraries, wherever you are, any public places. You could be even sitting on a park bench, and they're standing right behind you and looking at what's on your screen and seeing if they can pick up any kind of information at all. And that's where a lot of times people's passwords and usernames get stolen, just from these people that are just nonchalant. Like, you could be standing next to someone on a bus and they're looking at everything on your screen. It could be your password. You could be buying something on Amazon, entering your credit card information. A lot of people have a very good photographic memory, and they can record this information mentally. So some tips for this: just kind of be aware of your surroundings for sure. If you're in a doctor's office, maybe sit a couple seats away from that person, and always be aware of what you're doing on the phone, especially when it comes to your personal information. Another thing too, any email that you get that has a zip file or exe file or a DMG file, those are probably not safe, and I would delete them right away. And there's ways to block these things too. It's on your device, it's on your computer. Just delete it. If it's not from a trusted source, thankfully a lot of times our email and our devices have a lot of these measures already built into them. So it's really nice. We don't have to really worry about it as much anymore, but some stuff does slip through the cracks, and it needs to be deleted. Another thing, set strong passwords too. So this is really something I don't need to tell everyone anymore, because a lot of accounts force you to do that now. You have to set one capital, numbers, letters. You have to have two-step verification. So if you log into an account, it sends a text message to your phone to verify that it's you. A lot of these things are getting, although it's difficult to remember all these passwords all the time, it is a necessary step. And if you don't have it set up on your phone already, highly recommend it. Especially for devices too, right? Setting up a fingerprint scanner on your phone to just another level of security, right? Because sometimes we don't remember our passwords, and we have to have backup measures. One thing that we're talking about a lot, like in the wireless world, is something called IoT. And this is, has anyone ever heard of IoT before? Has anyone ever heard of machine to machine? Has anyone ever seen Terminator 2 before? Okay. So basically what IoT is we had all these really confusing acronyms and terms, and now we just group it all into one thing called the Internet of Things. And what that is the simplest way is a device connecting to another device. So think of your smart home security system, or you controlling your thermostat from your device. That is something that used to be called machine to machine. Now it is called the Internet of Things. And what that allows us to do is really advance, with technology on a personal level and, commercial level as well. So when I can walk into my house, I can say, okay, Google, good night, and everything in my house shuts off, the lights turn down, my Nest thermostat turns down to a temperature that is suited for when we're sleeping at nighttime. It's just going to kind of learn a lot of things about you. Although this is very creepy, there are things that you need to be aware of because of this, right? So another one that's probably the most popular product right now is there's the Google Home, there's the Amazon Echo. These are devices that connect to other apps. So that's kind of where the Internet of Things comes, right? It's one device that can connect to my Fitbit app or my Netflix app or my Spotify, and it just kind of interconnects things. It just makes our lives a lot more easier, right? It just kind of simplifies a lot of things. And with these devices, of course, there's things that we need to know, right? Because something like a Google Home is always listening. The microphone's enabled all the time. So it's listening to things that we do. And with a company like Google, a company like Amazon, these are multi-billion-dollar companies. They didn't get that way by giving away things for free, right? So a lot of these things that they're learning from you, they're collecting your information. Now, how they use that information, legally they can't, take that information and sell it off to other people. But what they'll do with that information is they'll learn different things about you. So for example, on my device, I use a Google, it'll learn certain things about me throughout the week. So it knows that at 8 o'clock, I got to get in my car and I got to start driving to work. And it knows where I work. I never program my phone. It just knows that based on the daily commute that I take, right? And it knows a certain route that I go. So it knows that if there's an accident there, it'll let me know about it. So a lot of these things are really convenient, and it is safe. A lot of people, we have a lot of questions, people being worried about, okay, well, what kind of information is, going out there and things like that. But it is used for good. And that's why it's really important to keep a password on all your information as well too. Because I don't want to say nothing can't be hacked, but it's very, very difficult to hack this information. The only way to do that is with your password.
Online shopping is a huge part of the presentation as well. Online shoppers in the room? Yeah? Most of us. I mean, it's not everybody, but I did a lot of my Christmas shopping online this year. 48% of us shop regularly. I've even gotten to the point where I buy my deodorant on Amazon now because it's cheap and it just comes every month, right? Every 2 months, or I can't remember what I have it set up. So 45% of online shoppers say they worry about would you, show of hands, do you worry about the stuff that, your credit card being stolen or anything like that? Yeah? So let's say that was half the room, just to add to their stats. So a couple things that you guys want to do before you do online shopping in any capacity is to verify the reputation of the website that you're shopping on. Most of the fraud and stuff like that you see go on are done on sites that aren't set up as e-commerce sites to take payments. So maybe it's a certain a certain clothing company in the United States that you can't buy their clothes anywhere, and they're just selling it off of a website they created in their in their house, and it's not set up properly. Make sure that you're verifying, looking at their privacy statements and stuff like that. Most of the sites that we're shopping on nowadays, like the Amazon, which is right underneath here, are secure websites. So has anyone ever paid attention to the website URL, the HTTP, and then the S afterwards? You can't really see it. It's under there right there, but you see the Amazon one. It's really hard to see, but it's HTTPS, and the S stands for secure. So that's how you know that you're on a secure website. So most people, yeah, I see some eyes making some notes right now. Most people do that because they don't realize that the S actually stands for something. So you know you're on a secure site when something like that is there. There might also be a lock or something like that, depending on the browser that you use and the type of computer. So just verify it that way as well. But your banks, even Facebook, anytime you're putting in passwords or private information, they should have that S on there. And if they don't, sometimes government websites and stuff like that will go down and they'll let you know the website's not secure right now. So you might see the lockbox unlocked, or it'll be in red or something like that. So just pay attention to it before you put even a password. It's something as simple as that. Even if you're not putting your credit card on that website, you want to make sure that you're on secure websites at all time. Protect your info. So we don't want to do this one. It's hard for people because they like public Wi-Fi networks, but you don't want to put private information on your device, log into, say, your banking app or Facebook or shop online when you're on a public network, because that is public information. So if you're at Tim Hortons and you want to go on their Wi-Fi and just say, oh, okay, I just want to transfer some money. I'm in Tim Hortons, I'm on Wi-Fi. It's a public network, right? So that network, not to say it is being accessed by other people, but it could be. Someone could also be in Tim Hortons accessing the information that you're accessing on your phone through the Wi-Fi network. So it's important to make sure that you're on secure networks. Do people have secure networks at home, meaning you have a password to log into your Wi-Fi? It's just always good to do that. Public networks are great. You want to check your email, you want to post on Facebook maybe, but you always run the risk of someone being able to access that information.
Another thing too on top of that, does anyone know what near field communication is, NFC? No? Okay, so NFC is another technology that uses tapping. So think of your debit card, you tap and pay, right? That's near field communication. A lot of our phones have that. Actually, all the phones coming out now have that. The benefit of it is being able to, tap and pay at the pump with your phone, or maybe transfer something between two phones without using a Wi-Fi or internet connection. But there are some risks that you run having that enabled when you're not using it, because there are people that have devices because I only need to be, so if this is like a debit machine, I only need to be really this far away for it to really pick up on that signal. And if I'm standing in a bus or in a crowded room and someone has a device strapped on them and I can't see it, they can download all the information from my phone if it's enabled and take my credit card information, my contacts, all my photos and things like that by hacking the device. So that's something just to keep in mind. Like if you aren't using it, just like turn off on your phone. A lot of iPhones will only have it on when you actually are paying, so you don't have to worry about keeping it off. But Android phones, it's usually on by default all the time. So just shut it off. It also saves your battery too when you don't have it on. So
We always want to save battery. Social media tips. So this will maybe play in a little bit more as we get into the cybersecurity, cyberbullying component to the presentation. With the school kids in particular, we kind of really focus a lot of time and energy on this because they're the ones who are, is it echoing? Or they're the ones who are sharing a lot. We all like to post on Facebook and Instagram, but they're sharing the most. As you saw with the Snapchat thing that we had earlier, 7 million per minute, those are mostly teenagers doing it, 12 to 16 years old, I'd say. So a couple things we want to do. We want to keep an eye on privacy and permission settings because you want to know what exactly you're agreeing to, right? So on Snapchat in particular, it's 12 or 13. I can't remember the exact age that you're supposed to be to have that app in particular to sign up for it. Not only that, but you're also agreeing to a lot of things in the privacy and permission settings, what Snapchat can see from you, from your images and videos, and what you're allowing them to withhold. So the privacy and permission settings are important because you're agreeing to Snapchat allowing to save your, where do they save it now? I don't even know. To save your photos, essentially.
It's in their
in their server somewhere, right? Server, yeah. So all these websites, Facebook, all the ones that the kids are using and adults do, they have privacy and permission settings, and we always scroll through them because they're like 7 pages long, and no one ever really wants to read them. But they're really important to review and make sure that you know, okay, what am I agreeing to when I take this picture and I send it to this person? Who has access to that information afterwards? So this is why we really talk a lot with the kids because oftentimes the hands go up. My brother does this, and I get these pictures, and my neighbor sends me these photos all the time, and the stories come about. So we always want to make sure that we're well aware of what the apps are allowed to keep from us. Google Alerts is something cool that a lot of parents, I would say, are starting to use. I use it personally for work just to see what things are being said about our business. So with Google Alerts, it's just google.com/alert, I believe, is the website you can access it. Or create one. It allows you to get notified when certain things are posted online about whatever it is. Maybe it's your child's name and their location or something like that. If you have a generic name, you might get a lot of emails and stuff like that. So if I just put TELUS, every time there's an update about TELUS on Google, you'll get an email about it. But maybe your child's school or something like that, it's nice to get them. So I do it personally for our business just to see if someone wants to leave a comment about the company. We'd like to know if it was a good or bad one. So google.com/alert. It's a good site to maybe sign up for. You have a Gmail account, you can easily access it and it just comes right to your email like a regular one. We obviously want to limit what we share. That goes without saying. There's so many things that we put out there thinking that no one else is going to see them. But again, privacy and permission settings lend us to believe that things are being accessed by other people. So we want to limit location and different things like that, which is a little bit further down. I'm just going to skip to that one for a minute, the geotagging one, because that's a really important one that I think a lot of people don't understand. So location services, do you have that on your phone? You're aware? Yeah? You have it off, right? I only use really location services to tell me where the weather or what the weather is going to be locally and the maps. The location services, they're usually set on your phone to already be on, or when you set up your phone, it allows you to alter it. But geotagging, it determines your location, your geographic location. So that's where like Snapchat and stuff like that, where these apps that people are taking pictures, it'll geolocate where the picture's being taken. And the kids like to use it because it gives you a really cool filter or something like that to show, okay, I'm here, and it allows them to send their friends. But it also allows people to see where exactly they are. Don't forget to log off. I think we're all kind of guilty of that. On my phone, I'm constantly logged onto everything, but it's always good to make sure that you log off, especially if you're on like a computer that other people access or a tablet that you share with family members or something like that. People oftentimes will leave their things logged on at schools and stuff like that. So just keep it in your mind to log off, and also keep your digital household clean, which means change your passwords, delete your browser history, your cache, your cookies, so the stuff that websites learn about you as you visit them and stuff like that. So it's important to clear yourself of that type of thing. And then 3 to 6 months, I know it seems like a lot to change your password that often, but it's always a good idea.
And remember your password.
Yeah. Yeah. We get a lot of people come in and ask, what's my password again? I can't remember my Gmail.
Kind of skip over that.
Yeah. Come and see us for this stuff. I'll let you talk.
This is good.
Yeah.
I'll just touch on this a little bit. Just, I have some kind of facts and fun stuff about this. I know we have an officer in the room. So distracted driving is kind of, you know, it's really important. It's out there, and I think there's a lot of confusion as to what actually is considered distracted driving. So we all know like the repercussions of what can happen if you're distracted driving, right? It can mean your life. It could mean, you know, getting a ticket. It could actually mean you losing your license, or even worse, right? So I don't need to do like a lecture on like what the ramifications of that are, but what is considered distracted driving. So this is some information based on like the federal government. So eating and drinking. Actually, if you're eating and drinking at the wheel, that is considered distracted driving now. Using your cell phone, obviously. So even if you're at a stoplight, that doesn't count. Like if there's actually been situations where people have got tickets just by being in like the Tim Hortons drive-through, being on their cell phone, right? Because you could still hurt someone. I know the drive-through off of Howard at Tim Hortons, there's always people walking through it. So I know if I was on my phone, I would probably take someone out. Some other things, going through a playlist, trying to find music, you know, on your phone, right? Personal grooming. So this, I don't know why you'd be shaving in your car, but you know, do the home. Maybe pulling the mirror down and doing your makeup in the mirror isn't a good idea on EC Row. I've seen that a couple of times. And making sure that like objects are secure, right? Like a lot of times, maybe we throw our groceries in the back seat, you hear them rolling around back there, you try to grab it to stop the milk from falling on the ground. You know, just make sure everything's secure in your car. Some tips, put your cell phone away. There's a lot of things that, especially like any car that you buy now, has built-in Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. It projects an image of your phone on the screen, and it's all hands-free and it's voice activated, so you don't even have to touch your phone anymore. And if you don't have one of those vehicles, there's also Bluetooth headsets, Bluetooth speakers that you could buy third party, maybe at Kelcom. And those are some things that, you know, you can get anywhere from like $30 and up, you know, something cheap, just to guarantee that you're not going to get, you know, a ticket, because it can be quite hefty. So right now, you could be fined up to $500 on your first offense, and it could get even higher than that if you've had more offenses. You could also lose up to 4 demerit points and have your license suspended. Every province has their own like laws on it, but this is, like I said, it's just general like Canadian law. Another tips and trick: rely on your passenger. There's a couple times where I can't access my phone while I'm driving. I can hear it go off. Just hand it to the person next to me. Can you read that text? And can you text back for me? It's not a big deal. Like sometimes people don't like people touching their phones, but you know it's not a big deal. Or just wait till you get to your destination. Yeah, we'll touch on this a little bit.
Yeah, so this one, again, is more part of the school one. The stop, block, record, and talk, that's the 4-step process that we talk about with the kids in school. Oftentimes oh no, they didn't switch it, they were going to. They switched the record and the block component just because, as I get into it, it'll make sense. So if they're involved in a cyberbullying situation, we always recommend that they stop. They stop all interaction or whatever communication they have with that other party. You want to record, so if it is a serious situation that the police need to be involved in, they need to see some sort of information. So whether that's screenshots or pictures or whatever it is, the images that you can collect, you want to record it. You also want to block that person because you don't want them to be able to communicate back with you. And the reason why it's often flip-flopped is because if you block someone, you often can't get the recording piece. You need to do that first. And you want to make sure you talk to someone. So high school liaison officers, VIP officer, teacher, whoever it may be. This is, again, what we talk about with the kids, to make sure that they know that there are resources for them and that they do have people that they can communicate with. So I'd like to think that we do pretty well in this area. I often hear about situations happening at schools, but they're often really, they're taken care of really nicely. So I think they're following these steps pretty well, but it's just the ones that we like to talk about with the kids in particular. For parents, you want to listen and provide support. I mean, this is kind of, it's a little bit different in this parenting age. When I was in grade school, there wasn't cyberbullying because there was like MSN Messenger. That was basically all we had to communicate online. We didn't have social media. People weren't sending pictures to each other or threatening messages and stuff like that. So it's very different. Develop a plan. So whether that's going to be you need to take it to the next level, or you want to discuss it with the teacher or something like that. Talk with your kids and make sure that you guys have a plan of action. You want to stay calm, yeah, because oftentimes these situations you freak out, right? Because you're dealing with the web, and the web is accessed by so many different things and so many different people that people often overreact and they think that their lives are over. So we want to stay calm with our plan and then get support. So there's different resources, like I said, locally within your schools. The schools are like, I'm amazed by them, by some of the stuff that they have access to. So it's really great. They've really tackled the subject head on. Parental controls, I mean, they're available on devices. Oftentimes people like to put controls on their computer. Filter any unsafe information, make sure it's all blocked, depending on what you're using. I'm talking mostly web at this point. Control, limit access. You're the parents, right? You can control exactly what they do. With the tips, I guess the bottom ones are probably maybe the most important to follow. If you're using controls, it's always nice to be open and honest. I mean, like I said, you're the parent, you can do what you want. But if they know about it, it makes it easier for them to understand. A lot of people tell me, yeah, my mom knows exactly what I do on my iPad. Or I only have access to this on my phone. And they're fine with it, right? Because that's what they've grown up with. They're growing up with a tablet being put in front of them at an early age, so they're aware of how it's being controlled. These tools aren't, to the first point there, they're not foolproof. I mean, open dialogue is still the best way to combat all this stuff, but they're continuing to develop them. I know, in particular, a lot of the stats and stuff they give us for this presentation, a lot of them are from the UK, a lot of like the little things that they add in there, because they have their laws are so different over there and they're so strict, especially with YouTube. The report function that YouTube has now here came from there, and there's so many great resources that they're doing that are slowly like trickling this way. So, I mean, some of the information that we talked about today, there is one of the Tell Us Why's books that has more step-by-step stuff. So it's like literally, it's for the seniors one, but it's literally how do I do this step-by-step. So it's not going to answer all the questions that you have about parental controls and stuff like that, but setting up Google alerts and turning off XYZ, making sure you're in private mode, doing all that stuff. It's all kind of listed in big font, and it's all step-by-step. So make sure, I'll make sure that it's available for you if you want to grab it before you leave. Otherwise, you can grab them from one of our stores or connect to us via email.
On behalf of the Parent Involvement Committee, we'd like to thank you for sharing your wisdom and advice with us in the evening. It was a very informative session.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Join me in thanking you.